days late, but here we are. I finally got to see Big Bang. For those of you wondering why I did not do this review and do not know, I had to work Saturday and was not able to see the whole show. And since Go Fight Live doesn't upload the pay-per-views until for reviewing until a couple days later, I finally got to watch it today. And so here we go. Let's talk about this. First of all, just talk about some improvements over Final Battle, which was the first internet pay-per-view Ring of Honor did. First of all, pretty much everything Ring of Honor said they were going to fix was fixed. The audio was 100 times better, though I would say that I wish they had mic'd the crowd a little better, but you could still tell the crowd was very hot into a lot of things. The only thing that I would gripe is I don't think they were mic'd quite good enough to where, particularly during the lucha matches, you could really hear the lucha fans really get into it and as much. But you could tell they were alive, and you could tell that there was a lot going on. So that's more, I would say, the important thing than really understanding everything that they were chanting. So that was fine. Looked like it was a pretty good crowd. I've heard differing opinions, and not to get into all this, but differing opinions about the crowd. Apparently it wasn't what Ring of Honor was expecting, but everyone that live said that from what the setup looked like, there was about 80 to 90% capacity. So it's not too bad for the first time in Charlotte, even though they did do a pretty big media blitz, so there was that. I will say this right off the bat. If you want to see some good wrestling, if you want to see a good wrestling show, spend the $15, buy this show. You can go to Go Fight Live, you can buy it, watch it at your convenience. It's basically video on demand. It's definitely worth the money. It's a 4-hour show, and I would say if I had one major gripe, or I shouldn't say major, but my biggest gripe, and even if this is my biggest gripe, it's such a small, tiny gripe that it's not even a gripe. It's just something that if I would say if you were going to point out something that they might want to change, it's the fact that the show was 4 hours, much like Final Battle. I think that's a little long. But overall, we got a lot of great wrestling. Everything got time. The show flowed very well. If you've never been to a Ring of Honor show, one thing I will say, this did do a very good job of it. I felt kind of capturing the experience of being at a live Ring of Honor show. So that was very good. I thought that was that's something you want to do. The video packages I thought worked pretty well. There was only one little video package snafu, and that was an editing thing. So there was that. There weren't almost any audio problems except for one, which I think only lasted a match, in which it wasn't even that you couldn't hear the announcers. It was the announcers' volume went way down, and it may have been because the crowd got so loud that they just kind of drowned out or something like that. That wouldn't surprise me, but not, and that really. It wasn't even nearly as bad as the first show, so there was that as well. But as far as the show, this was great, well worth the money. Like I said, 4 hours of wrestling for $15, and really a great show. I mean, everything flowed really well. It really didn't seem like you were there until probably near the end, where you kind of felt sort of tired. But the first half of the show kind of flew by really quick. Everything worked out really well, and let's just talk about the show a little bit, shall we? First of all, you started with the two local guys, two NWA guys, Phil Shatner versus Jack Salvation. Phil Shatner, I think, is the national NWA champion. Both of these guys, Phil Shatner is a guy who I'm kind of shocked that Ring of Honor hasn't used, or that more of the indies haven't used. He's not great, I would say, but he definitely has a good look, and he looks different than a lot of the guys that you see in, most of the major indie companies, because he is a bigger guy. He has more of the WWE look, and I think that particularly for Ring of Honor, I would say that's one thing that I think they could use more of. They have enough guys that don't look like WWE guys that I think a couple of guys, Rushy Brown being one, being another guy, which kind of fit, and I think they have a different look, and it just makes everything look a little better, in my opinion. But this was a little sloppy, but was still, I would say, good. I thought that they went out there and did a pretty good job. The crowd seemed to be into it. The ending seemed to end when it should have. It was a pretty good opener. I thought it was okay. I wouldn't call it great, but you know, I think both guys made a pretty good impression on themselves, and to the fact that I don't think anyone would mind seeing them, either guy, really on another Ring of Honor card. So there was that. Then we got more into one of the matches that I was looking forward to, which was Davey Richards versus Kenny King, basically for Kenny King's 5th spot in the Pick 6. For those of you that don't know what the Pick 6 is, it's basically the top 6 guys in Ring of Honor to go for the title. You know, if anyone outside of the Pick 6 beats you, you get their spot. If you know, it's kind of confusing as far as that. They did a really good job of explaining it though on the pay-per-view and explaining bonus money and all this other thing, where it makes it sound so much better than I think anyone else had ever explained it. But they both went out there. Both these guys were really athletic. I like the fact that they teased Davey's dive about 3 or 4 times. I really like that. Davey did a pretty good job of playing a babyface, which isn't something he normally does. So that was kind of cool. Kenny King just looked like, you know, the arrogant stud that he kind of is. I don't think he's quite there yet, but you can definitely see it. Really, really good match. The fans were definitely into it. Lots of good action, just a lot of fun. Then we got the Necro Butcher versus Erick Stevens. Not a good match, I would say. It was kind of a hardcore match, kind of there. But, and I would say this with all, even the last match on the card, I think even the bad stuff was stuff that, even looking back on it, wasn't so bad that it was like, oh my god, I can't believe I watched that. It was just more of like, it just wasn't good. And I even think that this was okay. It was just that it was the same Necro stuff we see over and over and over again. The ending was kind of eh. It kind of just led up to the Necro versus the Embassy storyline. Just continues to go. It was just kind of what it was. Then we got a match that we weren't supposed to get. It was I think we were supposed to get Cassandro versus Magno, but I believe Lufisto, I think is the guy that didn't show up for the Lucha Tag, so they moved Magno to the Lucha Tag, and they put in Rhett Titus in this spot versus Cassandro, which was probably excellent booking. I don't know who came up with that, but it was perfect because Rhett Titus kind of has this, you know, arrogant, chauvinist, you know, stud type gimmick, and then Cassandro has this transvestite gimmick. And if you've never seen Cassandro, and Kevin Kelly did a great job because he basically put it, but if you've never seen Cassandro, you're in for a treat. And, you know, was absolutely just great. Came out pretty much from the time he came out to even the ring introductions was just playing to the crowd. I think even the people that had no idea who he was kind of like, well, this is different, this looks cool, the way he played to the crowd. And they had what probably, if it wasn't for the fact that Cassandro broke his leg, would have been a good match. I mean, and one of the better Rhett Titus matches, singles matches I've ever seen in Ring of Honor. I thought this was really enjoyable. Cassandro went for a dive, basically broke his leg. We didn't find out until later, but the fact that the guy broke his leg, went back into the ring, did a top rope missile drop kick, and then tried to run the ropes even on a broken leg was pretty astounding. Him with his leg broke kind of messed up the ending, I think, a little bit, which made it a little sloppy. But this was a lot of fun, and you know, unfortunately, like I said, he broke his leg. He was supposed to be in King of Trios. He's definitely going to miss that because apparently it was a bad leg break. Unfortunate because I think he would have been really cool in Chikara. But hopefully when he's healed, I would love to see him brought back in Ring of Honor at some point because the guy is a lot of fun. I've seen him a couple times on a couple different shows, and I've always enjoyed him because he's fun, and even when he's a heel, he's fun. So it was really enjoyable. It was a nice comedy match, and I love comedy matches, so there was that. Then we got Colt Cabana and El Generico versus Steen and Steve Corino. This ended in a DQ, which, you know, it was kind of disappointing, but the match kind of did what it was supposed to do. It ended in a DQ, but we got a pretty good match up until that point. The DQ I thought was kind of but the way they did it, but that's beside the point because the after effect was awesome. The story was basically El Generico. What would El Generico do to Kevin Steen? Would he finally do anything to Kevin Steen? Would he hit him? Would he, you know, what would he do to him? we finally got the answer to that, which was the kind of led up, which led to the next match that they will have in Chicago. So that was cool, and I'm sure that that will lead to, you know, whatever they're going to do on May 8th, and then I'm sure that will lead to the next pay-per-view. So I'm completely fine with that. I haven't seen anyone really complain about this other than, you know, you shouldn't have maybe a DQ on pay-per-view, but the fact that everything else was clean. You know, the first pay-per-view I don't think had any type of DQ on it, I don't think, that I remember off the top of my head. And ultimately we got a pretty good, you know, angle and all of that out of it. Oh, speaking of which, I completely forgot about the most amazing thing on the show because I'm going through everything so fast. The Davey Richards-Kenny King match in which they did the Davey Richards interview, and he said he wanted to be the best in the world, and you can't be the best in the world unless you have the ROH title. Imagine that. I mean, that was one thing about the show, is that it was all about, you know, being the best, and if you were the best in Ring of Honor, you were the ROH champion. They basically, they built up the belt as meaning something, and Christopher Daniels made his return. This was a fairly awesome moment. You could tell the crowd was completely shocked. There was a fuck TNA chant. There was a fuck TNA chant when Cornette kind of did his little spiel later in the show, but was a pretty awesome moment. Should be very interesting. Don't know what TNA was thinking when they got rid of him, but hey, whatever. Went to intermission at this point. There was an intermission of this show, which actually fit, given the fact that it was a 4-hour show. It did give you time to get up, go get something to eat, use the bathroom, whatever. They did show some video footages during that. I would say, this is another thing I would say about the shows. If they're going to do the intermissions, which of course they do at all the live Ring of Honor events, one of the things that I think would be really good is if they just filled the intermissions full of, you know, video wires or video stuff from their YouTube account, or just video stuff for the whole time, and then said, okay, now we're done, and now we're going to start over again. They came back. We got the tag team title match: Chris Hero, Claudio Castagnoli versus J and Mark Briscoe. To me, this was the match of the night. I really enjoyed this. This is probably one of the best Briscoe's matches in a long time. Was just a really fun, fast-paced. All the guys were going full blast the whole time. Lots of good tag team maneuvers. They were kicking out of stuff. They were just a great match, and loved pretty much every second of it. Then at this point, I'm sure we were supposed to get the Lucha Tag, but Super Parka was running late, so instead we got the tag team title match, or we got the World Tag Team Title 3-way, which was great in its own way. Not as good as the tag team match. I haven't seen the 8th anniversary match yet, which everyone says is completely awesome. But this was every bit as good as I thought it was going to be after seeing the little preview that I saw in Phoenix of this show. Excellent stuff. Everything made sense. They did a good job the entire kind of pay-per-view of building up this match, of talking about why each guy felt it was important wanted the belt. Just was really good. They had a lot of good spots. You had Roderick doing, you know, hitting chops and all sorts of stuff. They brought out Tommy Young to be another referee. He's a legendary NWA ref. And then they also had Cornette actually do commentary, which was kind of cool. And hearing Cornette kind of go off on the comment and build up the championship like it meant something was just was very different, and the commentary team was very different. And even though you had kind of a heel-face dynamic going on, everything was still about the fact that all of these guys were really good, and you weren't going to see this anywhere else, and really built up the product without, you know, naming names, with basically saying you're not going to see this anywhere else. This is the best wrestling you're going to see, that sort of thing, which was cool. Then we got the last match. I wouldn't really call it the main event. Blue Demon Jr., Magno, Super Parka, and Misterioso. I've heard a lot of people complain about this going on last. And you have to remember is that they did do a lot of advertising to the Hispanic community. They came to see this match. This match needed to go on, so they stuck it on finally. So I have no problem with it. You know, listening to the fans kind of be into it kind of helped me a bit. But the first time I watched it, I had the sound down. I was in a chat. So then when I watched it the second time, I had the sound up, and you could actually hear the fact that at least the Lucha fans were into everything. I didn't like the match very much myself. It was an okay lucha match. If you watch a lot of lucha, it was okay. There was apparently a I am confused chant. I would kind of agree with that, but you send the fans home happy. I don't think it hurt the pay-per-view. I've heard a lot of people say, the main event, what I would think, because I often say, main event can hurt the pay-per-view. To me, there was so much good stuff on here that this didn't hurt the pay-per-view. I actually think this match would have been worse off. I heard Dave Meltzer say this before I watched it, and after I watched it, I was like, he's absolutely right. If this had gone on before the triple threat, I think people would have actually been even worse on it, because it would have been like, oh, why do we have to sit through this? The fact that this is at the very end, you can turn it off if you don't like it, you're not missing anything, I think actually helped. Still wasn't very good, still was a bad match, but it was what it was. You sent the Lucha fans home happy, which you needed to do. You might as well show it on pay-per-view. People forget that, the Clash match with Flair and Steamboat, that match didn't go on last either, and most people don't remember that. So that I'm fine with it. I understand why they had to do it. Overall, this was a lot of fun. I had fun watching it. I really wish I could have watched it live, but I definitely still think that you can still order it. I would recommend ordering it. I really felt it was good. I'd give it an 8.25. It was great. I wouldn't call it completely all there, because you did have some stuff, but the stuff that was really good on here was really good. I think even the bad stuff wasn't absolutely horrible. I think even the Lucha tag, because of the fact that if you turn it up, you can hear the Lucha fans get into it, I think does salvage it just a little bit. Not saying it's great, but saying that it's at least okay. It's not. I wouldn't even say okay. It's at least not absolutely wretched. That was a little fun. They went out there and tried, but there was not much they could do. But a lot of fun. Definitely go. I'll put a link in the description. Go watch this if you can. Definitely. There's probably going to be, for those of you that actually watch the whole video, there'll probably be, at least people checking the video out. I would imagine, 1,500 to 2,000 people checking out the video, and I would really hope that of those, at least a pretty good percentage, maybe 10-20%, I'll be realistic, actually order the pay-per-view that have not ordered the pay-per-view, because it's definitely worth checking out, particularly if you're fed up with everything else, if you're fed up with WWE, if you're fed up with TNA, you want to see just some good wrestling that's fun to watch. And like I said, it's a long show. That would be the only negative. You definitely have to make some time to watch the show, but it is on video on demand. Once you order it once, you can watch it as many times as you want. That's one good thing about Go Fight Live. You can watch it as many times as you want. You can watch it anywhere in the world. All you have to do is just pay through PayPal. PayPal will do everything for you. And with that, I'm out. Have a good one, and later.